See, there was only one law. Only one law. Spirit. There was no other law, and there was no other lawgiver. There was no other power in the land. One law, spirit. And that's the only law there is. If 10 righteous men in a city were to sit down in their daily meditation and forget their petty health and their petty supply and their petty problems and devote one period a day to the realization that God alone is law, and God alone is power, and God alone is omnipresence, and God alone is government, what chance would mortal man have to set aside spiritual law? And spiritual law is the only real law there is. And every individual on the face of the globe has the right to be governed by spiritual law. Now then, you see the importance of the correct letter of truth, don't you? That without this, you really don't know how to work or what to work for or what the principles of life are. But I give this unto you, even knowing this now, it will not be effective in your lives except in proportion to your practice of it. The amount of hours each day that you give to practicing the presence of God, to practicing this fact that there is but one, whether it's one law, one life, one substance, one cause. One cause, just think of that. In that degree will you bring it into your experience. Or on the other hand, as you read this practicing the presence, you will come to the passages on I. And then you will remember that there is only one selfhood, which means one I. And so it says here, let us be clear on one point. We cannot harm anybody, and nobody can harm us. No one can injure us, but we injure ourselves by a violation of the law of love. The penalty is always on the one who is doing the evil, never on the one to whom it is done. The injustice we do to another reacts upon ourselves. The theft from another robs ourselves. The law of love makes it inevitable that the person who seems to have been harmed is really blessed. He has a greater opportunity to rise than ever before, and usually some greater benefit comes to him than he had ever dreamed possible. Whereas the perpetrator of the evil deed is haunted by memories until that day comes when he can forgive himself. The whole proof that this is true is in the one word self. That is spelled with a capital S. God is our selfhood. God is my selfhood. God is your selfhood. God constitutes my being, for God is my life, my soul, my spirit, my mind, my activity. God is myself. That self is the only self, myself and yourself. If I rob yourself, whom am I robbing? Myself. If I lie about yourself, about whom am I lying? Myself. If I cheat yourself, whom do I cheat? Myself. There is only one self, and that which I do to another, I do to myself. And I just read you that in Scripture, where the Master says, inasmuch as ye have done it unto the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me, because me, the Christ, is the very Christ of you. So here you have two principles of the infinite way. They constitute a part of the letter of truth, and without them you will not establish the consciousness of oneness, or the consciousness of I-ness, or the consciousness of self-completeness. You will always be as if you were something out here wanting something from God, trying to demonstrate something, instead of sitting here saying, I already am. That which I am seeking, I already am. All that the Father hath is already mine. God is, I am. Now, when you do that, and develop the full consciousness of that, you will never look outside of yourself for anything, yet you will find everything appearing to you as the need arises. So with these two principles, you begin the actual practice of healing work. You can actually take any case and sit down and work with these two principles and see the result that will come through to you. First, by meditating, pondering on them as I have been giving them to you, and then waiting. And remember, here is the important part of our treatment work. When you have known this truth, when you have argued this way with yourself, or pondered, or contemplated this truth, until you feel that you've come to the end of your treatment is only half over. Because now you have only reached the place of preparation. Now you must wait for God to complete it, because your wisdom, your knowledge, isn't going to do the work. It is only going to lift you to where you can now sit back and say, now God, it's your turn. I've had my say, but now it's up to you. Speak, Lord, thy servant heareth. And then you open these inner ears, if the mind wants to wander, if the thought wants to wander, just bring it back with something like, God is, I am, or peace, be still. Peace, be still. Peace, be still. While you're doing that, keep these ears opening, because you're waiting. And you keep on waiting until you receive your answer. Now, whether your answer comes in a direct passage of Scripture or truth, or whether it just comes in a feeling of, thank you, a weight off the shoulder, a release, or a feeling of, to each one it comes in a different way, and sometimes to each one it comes in a different way each time. Do you see that? No one knows how it is going to come, but it will come. When it comes, you could say, God is on the field. His word has been uttered, and then you'll find, whether I can locate this or not, I don't know. It's in Psalms. Probably one of you will know it better than I do. In Psalms it says, He uttered His voice, the earth melted. It's in one of the Psalms, I think somewhere around the 46th, but I'm not sure. I don't know why that didn't... It is. It's the 46th Psalm. The whole Psalm, of course, is tremendous, but to me the highlight comes here, where it says, the heathen raged, the kingdoms were moved. He uttered His voice, but the earth melted. See that? The heathen rages, the body is diseased, the government gets wild, the wars get rampant. Everything takes place, horrors, the kingdoms are moved, everything is a horror. And you sit down and you wait, and He utters His voice, and it's a gentle voice. And when He does, the earth melts. All error melts. And so it is, if you have a patient or a student, and they are seeking your help, because receptivity is important. You can't inflict the healing on anybody. Once in a while, you can heal someone who isn't seeking it, but mostly you can't inflict it on them. But if they're seeking it, and you're conscientious in this, in abiding in oneness and abiding in I-ness, then wait. He will utter His voice in you, and when He does, the error will melt. We saw it, didn't we? He uttered His voice, and it just melted like that. Do you see that? Now there are two important principles of the infinite way. Call it the letter of the infinite way, call it the correct letter of truth, but let me tell you this, that it won't do you any good. until you have made it your own, until it is flesh of your flesh, blood of your blood, until you love it as much as I do, until it is so clear within you that you can sit down and give a talk on it just like this. When it's that much your own, then you don't have to think about it anymore. Then you don't have to have notes. Then you don't have to have reminders. You just open your voice and his voice comes through. Well, I don't know where we are in time or space. He not only utters his voice and the earth melts, but time melts. Well, we're to meet at when? 2:30. Okay, well now, we're going to have meditation, and then you'll carry this with you, and you will remember these 2 points, because remember that without these 2 points, you're not practicing the infinite way. You're practicing some other kind of metaphysics. It is a difficult thing, perhaps, to train yourself out of some of the ways you've built up. But that will have to be done, because you can't add new wine to old bottles. You will have to get used to this fact that this truth you know is in power, that your mind is in power, that thought is in power, that right reasoning is in power, that these are merely steps leading to the power. Never forget that. These are important steps leading to the power. The power is when you go into silence and he utters his voice. That's my secret. That is what happened to me in 1928 when my first spiritual experience came, and I began doing healing work, and for several years after it I did not know how the healings took place. I merely sat down, I got quiet, and this heave come in here, and the healing took place. And to me it was a miracle, because I had nothing to do with it except sit there and wait for that to happen. But in the years that I've studied and pondered and practiced and meditated, I have found what that secret is. The secret is that when his presence becomes tangible, that's when you can say God is on the field and nothing is impossible to him. But if you don't have the correct letter of truth, you are very apt not to develop this spirit. In me it came the other way about. The spirit came first and the letter came next. But that was, as I know now, purely an act of grace for some reason which God alone knows. Certainly I don't. And so, thank you.